Well, hi, family. Again, after a little bit of delay, we did not have an FDG session for the last 5 weeks. So I really just wanted to test how much you missed it. So that was the reason for extending it a little bit, but welcome again to episode 5 of season 2. Okay, right. So today we have a very special clan of the family, Vimla Bahadur. I think Vimla Buaji was the first migrant from the family. I may be wrong, but that's my impression. I think she migrated as she got married from Kodwar and from the comfort of Kodwar to Hyderabad, which was almost another country in those days. And so and this is a great family. It is dispersed all over the world. I, for one, have known well only 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 people in the clan. And I'm very keen to hear about everybody else, what they're doing. Veena Jiji, I think the move to Hyderabad is why you make the best halim in the world, despite being a vegetarian. But so I think let's take it off, which is the Parivar Tales, the clan of Vimla Bahadur, journeys across continents and cultures. So take it away, Gogi and Pawan.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ranu Mama, and hello and namaste to everyone. A very, very warm welcome to this session of Parivar Tales. We are delighted to bring this story of the Vimla Bahadur family to you. The Das family is a very magnificent kaleidoscope of personalities and life stories. And the Vimla Bahadur family has added much to the rich tapestry of this family, as you will discover through the course of this session. We have here Vimla Bahadur in her early years, and over here we have her with Nagendra Bahadur, her husband. The two of them constitute the first generation of a family where the story really begins. And this is actually the picture, I think, as how we all remember them. But before we go any further, we thought we'd begin this session on a traditional and auspicious note. So here goes.
Jai Ganesh, Jai Ganesh, Jai Ganesh, Jai Mata Parivati, Pitta Mahadeva.
Okay, so that was Sonia, who is the great granddaughter of the Vimla Bahadur family, and she is the youngest member of this family. Now, this is the great family chart, which shows the full canvas of the family that Vimla and Nagendra Bahadur have nurtured and created. You can see here, there are 35 family members. What Ranu Mama probably didn't mention was this probably is the largest family that we are presenting as of now in the Parivar Tales. And there are 35 family members with spouses. After Vimla Bahadur, there is an all-female star cast of Indu, Veena, and Lekha, who were the 3 daughters in the second generation. And in Gen 3, which is our generation, there are 7 of us plus our spouses. Sanjay, Shobna, and Ajay are Indu's children. Pavan and Vandana, or Gogi, which is me, we are Veena's children, and Anjali and Seema are Lekha's daughters. We will go into the details, and I'm not going into the names of all the spouses because we'll be explaining and describing all their backgrounds later. In Gen 4, we have 11 children plus their spouses. Some of them have got married recently. So that's what we have as a family. And most of this family, as Ranu Mama mentioned, is living overseas. If you see towards the left of me and Harish and Tisha and Tara, pretty much most of that family is living on the West Coast or the western side of the US between Arizona and California. While on the right of us, which is Lekha Mausi's family, is largely on the East Coast and mainly in New York now. We have amidst us a mix of professions, engineers, doctors, financial professionals, corporate professionals, educationists, architects, a designer, and a writer. And as we were putting together the family's narrative, one common theme stood out, and that was the extent to which this family has spread its wings across geographies and also across cultures through marriages into different communities. Now, we're going to show you a quick glimpse of the journeys traveled first by Nana and Nanima, and then by their 3 daughters after their marriage. In generations 3 and 4, we have also traversed many cultures through marriage. So here goes, we're going to show you some interesting visuals here.
जिंदगी एक सफर है सुहाना, यहाँ कल क्या हो किसने जाना। जिंदगी एक सफर है सुहाना, यहाँ कल क्या हो किसने जाना। जिंदगी एक सफर है सुहाना, यहाँ कल क्या हो किसने जाना। अरे ओले ओले ओ, ओले ओले ओ,
So that I think would have given you a flavor of the kind of travels this family has had. And as per the last count, there have been about 8 to 10 relocations for Nanima Nana before they settled down in Delhi. And the 3 daughters have moved about 13 to 14 times before settling in their current locations. For their generations, that's a fairly high number. But here you see a touch of history also that we've had in this family. I won't go into much detail at this point, but various members of the family have had experiences that were closely linked to these various events in history. And we will now be beginning with
make your breakfast.
And that is the Vimla and Nagendra Bahadur's story. We have Vimla Bahadur, who was, or rather that stage she was Vimla Das, was the 5th child in the R.S. Das Parivar. A quiet child, she was a person with determination and a seeking mind. And Nanima went to the Vasant College in Varanasi, as did her sisters. Over there, she had full opportunity to develop her talents and participate in functions, including ones where both boys and girls participated. She was excellent in singing and dancing, and during one such function, J. Krishnamurti, the great philosopher, was in the audience. He was so impressed by her that he asked her if she would like to join their organization and stay with them. Now you can see this is her in her early years as a married wife, and there we now see a change in her story. She got married into a family far away for that time in Hyderabad state. She moved there while all her other siblings remained in UP. Now, being a Muslim-dominated state, the culture was very conservative. Her husband, Nagendra Bahadur, that is my Nana, was in the Nizam state service at that time. And as his wife, she followed all the social norms that were required from the ladies of that society. So she had to be in parda, which is not burqa, in public places. Even in the car, she moved in parda when Nana was a collector in Bidar. You can see in the pic, probably from the late 30s, Nana in an achkan and Nanima as a young wife with little Indu. And these are other pictures of the young family. Nanima had to completely give up singing, etc., and never sang other than in puja at home until she came back to Delhi after 1948. In Hyderabad, since Nana was in the Nizam service, Nanima had opportunity to observe at close quarters the lifestyles of the Begums of the Nizam, who was at that time considered the richest man in the world. Nanima would talk about how their jewels would once in a while be put out in the roof of the palace to expose them to the sun. She also used to tell how the royal women would be in parda, but were fairly educated and emancipated for their times. Now, Pavan would be sharing a bit of the story for Nana.
Okay, hello everyone, this is Pavan.
So Nana too had a story of migration. He was the son of Zamindar of Sandila, uh, which was a tehsil near Lucknow. He moved to Hyderabad and took up the Hyderabad civil service under the Nizam. In 1948, when rumors were brewing of annexation to India, he was Home Secretary in the Nizam's government. Liaquat Ali, the head of the Razakar movement, had declared that Khoon ki nadiyan bahengi. So Nana used to come home late and there used to be tension at home. Apprehending possible Hindu-Muslim riots, in Jan 1948, he arranged for the family to leave for Delhi and decided to stay back due to his official responsibilities. There was police action by the Indian government against the Nizam's government, and Hyderabad was annexed. The family returned to Hyderabad a few months later, and by then, Nana had been absorbed in the first batch of the IAS of the Government of India. So in 1955, the whole family moved to Delhi. During his tenure in Delhi, Nana was Joint Secretary in the Ministry of Rehabilitation for the refugees from Pakistan. He used to tell the family about the great tragedies suffered by the refugees. After a 10-year stay in Delhi, he moved to Calcutta as iron and steel controller and then to Udaipur as MD of Zawar Mines. He also did stints in Bangalore, Hyderabad, and then finally back to Delhi post-retirement. During this time, the three daughters got married. Indu and Lekha left for the US, literally Saat Samandar Par. Nana and Nanima felt the pain of separation, especially given that communication and travel was very difficult in those times. But they carried this pain with grace right till the end. Their transition to a retired life brought a dramatic change in their lifestyle. After the grandeur associated with Nana's positions during his professional life, they seamlessly changed to a very simple and austere lifestyle in Delhi. Nana even stopped smoking and drinking, which he frequently indulged in earlier. Nanima had a very gentle and soft personality, while Nana had a very engaging style with a sharp wit. They endeared themselves to whoever they got to know, both young and old. While not being socialites, they were popular in their own way, not just in the family, but also amongst neighbors, and actually even amongst my friends. In fact, Nana and Nanima were the first family that Deepu, my wife, met. And we stayed in an annexee of their house for a year and a half, one of our most pleasant stays. Nanima was a very spiritual person, but in a non-ritualistic way. She had a systematic routine, which included daily walks, visiting neighborhood friends, maintaining a daily log of accounts, and other such routines. Very simple person in her habits, she was nevertheless very meticulous and always dignified in her appearance. Nana, on the other hand, loved to discuss politics and was careless about his appearance, not particular about any spiritual practices, but very sharp in his observation and judgment of people. He liked to engage in discussions with his grandchildren on thorny issues like love marriages, and he constantly pulled pranks on us. And despite his austere ways, he didn't refrain from the occasional indulgences. He would regularly visit Nirula's to have his favorite gulabo ice cream. Nana also enjoyed cooking occasionally and made delicious meat curries that no one actually could replicate. Now, Mom, Veena, will share some memories of the three Bahadur sisters from their early years in Hyderabad and Delhi.
Okay, hi everybody. So I am Veena, the middle one of the three sisters. Between us, Indu is 5 years older than me and Lekha 6.5 years younger. So there is 11.5 years difference between the eldest and the youngest. I was in a way more of a bridge between them. Gigi loved to tease her and Lekha would scream in frustration. On one such occasion, near Nainital Lake, Lekha was so angry that in her baby voice she shouted, Gigi, hum tumhe pani mein phek denge. Those were lovely days. Because of the age difference, the early childhood of ours was far from similar. During Papa's stay in Hyderabad, Lekha was but a child. However, Gigi and I were exposed to the conservative Muslim culture prevailing at that time. We studied in a prestigious school called Mehboobiya Girls' School. It had very few Hindu girls, and no male staff could enter the premises. Many girls came to school in burqas and in cars that had curtains. Gigi had to keep her legs covered all the time and so never wore frocks. I remember even in picture halls, there was the Zanana and Mardana separated by curtains. We never went out to meet friends, so our life was confined to family and school. Half of our stay in Hyderabad was in a joint family on my father's side, which was big enough to play games like TT, cricket, badminton, etc. Gigi and I would dance together in family functions. Our connect with the RST family was limited to holidays spent in Kurwa. We also had holidays together with Kamla Mosi and Badi Mosi's families in Masuri and Nainital. It's amazing that this closeness has continued throughout our life. Not only were Badi Mosi and Kamla Mosi very close to each other, Badi Mosa Papa and Bhagat Saran Mosaji were thick as brothers too. In fact, that is why Bhagat Saran Mosaji forced the other two to buy plots in Vasant Vihar. Papa would often tease the other two. On one occasion, it was raining and Papa phoned up Bhagat Saran Mosaji saying that some Bhatnagars had come and wanted to meet him. Mosaji, befitting his personality, dressed meticulously and came over. When he asked for the Bhatnagars, Papa pointed to some earthworms outside and said, "There they are." Mosaji just laughed out. They never took offense. In spite of the Hindu-Muslim divisions that dominated the political scene in Hyderabad, it never came in the way of developing strong friendships for us as children. In fact, recently, I connected with my closest friend, Jahanara, after a gap of 60 years, and we are in constant touch. Believe me, this meeting was just something amazing. Gigi did part of her graduation in Nizam's College in Hyderabad and became the TT champion there. Both Gigi and I studied higher Urdu and English in Hyderabad. After merger, Hindi was introduced as national language and Telugu as regional. So I had to study 4 languages for some time. By this time, Lekha also was ready for school. In 1955, when we shifted to Delhi, both Lekha and I joined Lady Owen School while Gigi finished her college. I became an item of curiosity in the school, who spoke a strange language, the Hyderabadi Hindi. They had never heard words like Hauna, Nakko, Amma, Kya Karte Ji, etc. There was a total culture shift from conservative Muslim one to a very open one, where girls went to school on cycles and minibuses. We stayed in Babanagar, earlier known as Wellesley Road. Kamla Mosi's family and we were in adjacent blocks, and our family life became almost one. Neetu's family was in the block behind us. We used to travel to Miranda House in the same bus. Later, Meera also joined the college and stayed with us for a year. And it was here, during even walks, that Deepak and Neetu's affair bloomed unknown to us. In 1956, Gigi got married and left us. During the Indo-China War in 1962, a few of us got together and raised funds for the soldiers by collecting and selling old newspapers and holding a mela in the colony. The national fervor was very strong. At this time, I was engaged and got married after completing my master's. I left for Ajmer with Vijay while Papa was transferred out. So Lekha did her graduation in Miranda House, staying in the hostel. She also got married after graduation and after 1 year migrated with Rajan to USA. Thus started the story of 3 different lives separated by oceans and years.
Thank you, Mom. That was really beautiful. And as you all can see, these are pictures of the 3 Bahadur sisters in their later years, all looking completely vibrant and gorgeous. So now we're going to move to the next part of this session, which is going into each of the sisters' family stories. And for that, we begin with Indu Mosi's family. So we begin with her story, which really epitomized, the frontier spirit in exploring the unknown West at that time. She was the first in her generation to move out of India way back in 1956 at the age of 19. I can't even begin to imagine what that must have meant. Okay, so we're now going into the frontier family, which tamed the West, at least for us Indians. And this is the beautiful family that Indu Mausi and Bishan Mausa nurtured. Most of this family are now based in Arizona and California. Unfortunately, due to health reasons, Indu Mausi is unable to join us for this session. Now, the Nigam family has 3 children, Sanjay, Shobna, and Ajay. Vibha, Chetan, and Shivani are their better halves. Sadly, we lost Vibha Jiji about a year ago. A remarkable person in so many ways, Vibha Jiji is as present with us today as in the past. Coming to Gen 4, we have a talented group of youngsters, many of whom got married in the last 2 years. Kabir and Anisha are Sanjay Bhaiya's kids. Kabir got married to Anika recently, and they're both in the medical field and currently in Boston. Rishabh and Reshma were married in 2018. Many of you attended that wedding. They are based in New Jersey, and Richa and Sahaj also got married this year, and they are based in Los Angeles. Akash and Samir are Ajay's handsome boys who are currently in school. We'll hear more about all of them soon from Sanjay, Shobi, and Ajay. But before that, we thought we'd show you some pictures. And you can see here Indu Mausi in a bridal form. And that's Bishan Mausa and Indu Mausi getting married way back. And there's a very charming picture here of Indu Mausi and Bishan Mausa, probably in the early years in the US. And on the right is this interesting picture of Bishan Mausa when he was leaving for the US first, which would have been early 50s, probably 1952. And Sanjay Bhaiya will be speaking more on that. And here we see Indu Mausi with young Sanjay and Shobi, and Sanjay and Shobi here in Indian outfits. And this lovely picture at the bottom, which is with Ajay there too. And on the right is a full family portrait. So now we're going to come first to Sanjay Bhaiya's family, who's going to share his journey. And Sanjay Bhaiya is deeply involved in medical research, and so was Vibha. And currently Sanjay is the research chair at University of San Diego. He recently moved to the Bay Area. And so we're going to just now listen to Sanjay Bhaiya.
Hello, I'm Sanjay, eldest son of Indira and Bishan Nigam. I was born in New Delhi and immigrated to the US at age 1. That was 1960. I believe we were the first family in the greater RSD clan to settle in the US. I'm still trying to figure out how that happened. It's a kind of origin story for our family, but also something of a mystery too. My dad, Bishan Nigam, was born in 1928. He was the son of a well-known attorney, and they lived in Dariba Kalan in Chandni Chowk in Old Delhi, about halfway between Red Fort and Jama Masjid. There were no scientists or mathematicians in my dad's immediate or extended family. But somehow in his teens, he decided he wanted to be a nuclear physicist. This would have been around 1943, 2 years before the bombing of Hiroshima and 4 years before independence. Anyway, I'm still puzzled as to where the inspiration to become a nuclear physicist came from. It wasn't what a smart kid from Chandni Chowk did in 1943. My dad graduated with a PhD in physics from Delhi University, and then there was the matter of postdoctoral studies. These took him to the US to work with a famous nuclear physicist who played a key role in the Manhattan Project to build the first atomic bomb. I go through all this because Dad essentially stayed in North America from then on, becoming a professor of theoretical nuclear physics and coming back mainly to marry my mom, Indira, in 1956. Now, I mentioned I was born in Delhi, and immigrated to the US at age 1 in 1960. You might ask, how could that be if my parents immigrated to the US in 1956? You see, my mom, Indira, came back in 1959 to India for the delivery. At this time, India had a need for nuclear physicists. The first Indian nuclear bomb was only 15 years away. It appears that the grandparents on both sides came up with a plan to bring my dad back to India. And so when it came time for my young mother to rejoin her husband on the other side of the world, the grandparents decided that I should be raised in India until the young couple was totally settled in America. That separation was understandably very tough for Mom. But the hostage plan did not work. When it was clear that my parents were not coming back, at age 1, I was flown from Delhi to New York. One consequence of this plan is that I feel that I'm 4 inches shorter because I was deprived of American milk during the first 12 months of life. Another consequence was a strong attachment to India and my Nana and Nanima. I went to school for a couple of years in India when Nana was posted in Udaipur and Bangalore. And during my teens, my mom strongly encouraged me to spend summers in India, which were some of the best times of my life. Fast forward. My sister Shobi and my much taller brother Ajay were both born in the US, and you'll hear from them soon. Shobi will tell you the American part of the story and how Mom played a huge role in organizing the Indian communities in the cities where we lived. As for me, I started off as a kidney doctor, but then, following the model of my dad, turned to science. After my clinical training, I spent 5 years experimenting in the lab of a scientist who later won the Nobel Prize. I was then recruited to the faculty of Harvard and used to be the director of kidney research at Harvard Institute of Medicine. After nearly a decade at Harvard, I accepted a research chair at the University of California in San Diego, where we have lived for the past 20 years and where I still run my lab. I've done a lot of research on making a kidney and also on how the body handles the drugs that you might take for joint pain and high blood pressure. I also have a career as a professional novelist with books published or acquired in something like 10 countries. My late wife, Vibha Bhatnagar, was a doctor as well. To me, she was the loveliest, kindest, and most generous person I ever met. I think a lot of people who knew her well would agree. So would her patients. While I was climbing the academic ladder in Boston, we had 2 children, Kabir and Anisha. When the kids were small, Vibha, quite amazingly, did a master's in public health at Harvard. So she had an MD and an MPH, or a master's in public health. Towards the end of her career as a clinical researcher, she made what is now considered a very important discovery. Vibha passed away less than a year ago. It is still very hard for all of us. She was Kabir and Anisha's rock. Mine too. We've been very grateful for the support of family, many of whom you will meet later in this presentation. So now it's Anisha, Kabir, me, and our puppy, Falcor. Kabir, our eldest, is also a doctor. Strangely enough, he is doing his residency at the same Harvard hospital where he was born, the same hospital where I was an attending physician, and right next to the Harvard School of Public Health where his mom, Vibha, received her degree. Kabir also has a master's in neuroscience from Imperial College in London. Before this, he really worried his parents when he almost became a rock star, having won the UCLA Spring Sing before 10,000 people at the age of 18. The contest is judged by major rock stars and Hollywood luminaries. Many winners have launched successful rock careers. Last year, Kabir married Annika, also in the medical field, who is rebuilding her practice now that they have moved to Boston. She and Kabir met as students at UCLA, and after nearly a decade together, got married last year. Anisha, just 14 months younger than Kabir, is a data scientist at the School of Pharmacy at UCSD. She has published several original scientific papers, one of which contains a patentable invention. Anisha connects with animals like no one I've ever seen. She has a huge heart, lots of spunk, and is very creative. She seems to come up with a new idea for a startup company almost every week. So it probably comes as no surprise that Anisha's next move looks like Silicon Valley.
Thank you, Sanjay Bhaiya, and that was beautiful. We also have Sanjay Bhaiya connected on this session, so maybe we'll have him also add a few words later. But we move on to Shobi Jiji, and here we see Shobi Jiji in her really early years performing Bharatnatyam, one of many performances. And later she got married to Chetan Bhai Sahab, who is a Maharashtrian, and you see this wedding taking place in a Maharashtrian style, and both of them with their young kids. So I'm going to now invite Shobi Jiji to share her story.
Hello, everybody. I'm Shobi. I am Indu and Bishan's daughter. I live with my husband, Chetan, in the southwestern state of Arizona. Chetan and I have been married for nearly 40 years. Both of us are engineers and have worked in industry for close to 4 decades. Chetan worked in the aerospace field. He recently retired from his company and is now working part-time teaching engineering courses at an aeronautical engineering university. I've been working in the electronics industry and am currently employed with a semiconductor company. Chetan is Maharashtrian. He grew up in Mumbai and moved to West Bengal to study civil engineering at IIT Kharagpur. In 1978, he traveled to the US to pursue his MS and PhD in structural engineering at Arizona State University. That is where he and I met. I too was pursuing my bachelor's and master's in mechanical industrial engineering. We eventually married in 1982. We have 2 children, Rishabh and Richa. Rishabh is a doctor of ophthalmology, a retina specialist. He is currently practicing in a New Jersey retina clinic. He's married to Reshma, who's originally from Kerala. She is also a doctor and is currently doing her residency in OB/GYN. My daughter, Richa, is an architect. She is married and is working at a global architectural firm with an office in Los Angeles. Her husband, Sahaj, is from Gujarati lineage. He is a chemical engineer with an MBA and a business developer at a biopharmaceutical company based in the LA area. I was the first person from both sides of our family to be born in the US. I was born in New York in 1962, but my first memories are from 1964 onwards when our family moved to Arizona. Dad had accepted a professor of physics faculty position at Arizona State University. Our family was the first Indian family to settle in the state of Arizona. Our first impression of Arizona was the obvious one. It was extremely hot and we were surrounded by a vast desert. I think Mom truly hoped that this would be a temporary move. After all, who would want to make their home in such a desolate place? The move to Arizona must have been particularly difficult for her, as at that time, there were no other Indian women who understood or shared her Indian culture and traditions. For the first couple of years, we stayed in apartments near the university. Although the Civil Rights Act had recently passed, racial bias and discrimination was still very much present in the US. In 1966, Mom and Dad bought a small house in a middle-class neighborhood close to the university. The neighborhood was predominantly white. People in the community had heard about India, but had never met anyone from India. They knew very little about the country, the history, or culture. I recall that for the most part, the adult neighbors seemed to be welcoming. They were interested in learning more about us and the Indian tradition. But the children in the neighborhood knew nothing about India. Most of the kids had never even met anyone of color and had strong biases about Black people. They didn't quite know how to categorize us. We weren't Black, but then we weren't white either. When Sanjay and I used to say we are Indians, they confused us with the Native Americans and would ask what tribe we belonged to. Because the kids were uninformed and therefore somewhat discriminatory, the first 4 to 5 years of school were the most difficult for me. Sanjay and I were the only kids of color in the entire 6 grades of our elementary school. I remember several of the kids referring to me with derogatory racial slurs. Although some of the kids could be quite mean, I did find a group of school and neighborhood friends that welcomed me into their friendship circle. They found the idea of making friends with someone who came from the other side of the world as mysterious and exotic. They wanted to learn more about me, my family, and India. Back then, many children's impression of India was based on Disney's popular animation film, The Jungle Book, and the character of a little Indian boy named Mowgli. Mowgli lived in the trees and only wore a small red langot, but was otherwise naked. So it wasn't uncommon for me to get questions like, do people from India live in trees? Do they not get proper clothes and shoes in India? They also noticed that mom often wore a small red bindi. I can't remember how many times I was asked why Indian ladies have red dots on their forehead, and if the dots was branded into their heads, and if I too would have the same thing done to me someday. They were very curious about our Bhagwan pictures and small statues on our puja table. I'd get questions like, why do you have so many gods? Why do they have so many arms? Why do some have the bodies of humans but the heads of animals? Throughout our childhood, mom was particularly driven to ensure that we maintained our Indian culture. Every 2 to 3 years, she would take us back to India, spend time with family, and to expose us to the Indian lifestyle and traditions. While we were there, we'd eat lots of delicious street food, go on several cannot place shopping sprees, and see as many Bollywood movies as we could. Mom had an eye for art and would decorate our entire Arizona house with Indian curio pieces and other Indian knickknacks. I think it made her feel like our house was a home away from home. Mom also bought me a collection of Chitra Katha comics and Pachachandra books. This is how I learned about Indian mythology, traditions, and belief. Every time we visited India, Mom would hire a dance teacher to teach me Indian folk dance. I had learned about 4 to 5 simple dance, but in those days, since I was the only person in Arizona who knew Indian dancing, I was routinely invited to perform at various Arizona cultural events and festivals. Food was always a challenge for mom and dad. The Arizonan diet was essentially steak and potatoes. Dad was a strict vegetarian, and both mom and dad only enjoyed eating Indian food. Mom was an excellent cook, so dad really wanted to eat outside. Not only was it hard to locate vegetarian options back then, but they found that the food was very bland. Up until the early 70s, the Indian population in Arizona was still quite small. We therefore did not have any local Indian grocery stores. Food and spice selection used in Indian cooking was very limited. However, Los Angeles had a reasonable number of Indians, and fortunately, they also had a few Indian grocery stores. So we would periodically make the 6-hour-long journey to LA to stock up on atta, dals, and spices. As the years passed and the Arizona economy grew, more Indians started to move to Arizona for either their work or to pursue higher studies. Mom and dad were well known in the community and were the first point contacts and welcoming party for newly arrived Indian students and families. At the university, Dad founded an India Students Association to help the Indian students connect with each other and other local Indian families. When I started my undergraduate studies in 1978, there were barely 15 plus Indian students enrolled within the entire university. Those who had come directly from India came to pursue their graduate studies. Mom and dad would often invite them over for dinner so that they could enjoy a home-cooked Indian meal. One of those students happened to be Chetan. Chetan and I were studying engineering and our classes were in the same building. We often met for coffee and lunch. Although we were born and raised in different countries and different cultures, we found that we shared many interests and life values. 4 years later, we married. Our wedding was held in Mumbai and was performed according to Maharashtrian customs and traditions. By the late 70s, we had a moderate population of Indians in Arizona. The community was very close-knit. As pillars in the community, Dad and Mom helped to establish the India Cultural Association of Phoenix, which still exists today. They were both instrumental in organizing Indian festivals, hosting cultural shows, planning community social get-togethers, and arranging for monthly showings of popular Bollywood films. To the delight of many, we also finally got our first Indian local grocery store. Today, Arizona is the home to over 50,000 Indians. Knowledge of India and Indian culture is no longer a mystery. The culture, the arts, the food, and many of the lifestyle practices of India have been embraced by many in Arizona and across the US. Indian school-age children no longer need to explain who they are, where they came from, and why they have chosen to continue following certain Indian traditions.
Thank you, Shobhiji. And here you can see these glorious pictures of Shobhiji's children, their weddings, which took place recently. And as you can see, this is as Indian as it gets. So there's Richa at the bottom right. And I don't know if you've noticed in the previous picture how similar she and young Shobhiji look. So that's about Shobhiji's family. And I just want to mention Reshma is from Kerala. And as Shobhiji said, Sahaj has Gujarati lineage. And as you can see, Reshma is wearing something which is more traditionally from the south. We now move on to Ajay, the youngest Gen 3 in the Nigam family. And I'll just give a quick background. Ajay and Shivani live in the Bay Area, where Ajay is a business analyst with the bank and Shivani is a corporate finance professional. Pawan, Sanjay and Ajay now live within about 15 minutes of each other. So that's emerging as a little Das family hub. But we'll now hear from Ajay.
Okay, hi everyone. I'm Ajay Nigam, son of Bishan and Indira Nigam. I grew up in Phoenix, Arizona. Was born, I won't tell you how long ago, but I was born in Phoenix, raised there, and was one of the few people I know that were actually born in Arizona as an Indian. When I was, as my sister probably and my brother mentioned, we were one of the very few Indian families in Phoenix, and so obviously when growing up, there were hardly any Indians around, so had to kind of tell people that I'm not the other kind of Indian or a Mexican, because I was kind of lumped into those two, but I was actually East Indian from America. So anyways, but yeah, it was great growing up, and just getting that exposure to, and not recently, but about in 1999, I moved to the Bay Area, San Francisco. So much different experience for me culturally, even though it's still within the United States, but Phoenix being kind of less diversified, compared to the Bay Area, which was very diversified, was very kind of interesting. And yeah, really have enjoyed living here. Of course, it's you pay for the price, as it's super expensive, as everybody knows. After moving to the Bay Area, I got married to Shivani Nigam, and I met her in the U.S., but she was visiting from India. So, we then got married in India and settled in the Bay Area. I have two kids, Akash and Samir, two boys, and one is about to go to college. So that's really surprising for me because times have really gone by fast. And my other younger one is about to enter high school. So yeah, things are definitely moving, and that's basically all I have to say. My kind of just interests are, I like watching sports, football, basketball, and I used to go to India quite a bit. I haven't been since my grandparents are no longer alive, but but I used to go like every 4 years, so haven't gone there a long time. Would love to go back again and visit relatives and tour the country. There's so much to see, and it's a wonderful country. Anyways, thanks so much for your time.
Okay, so that was Ajay, and you can see this beautiful family probably holidaying somewhere in the east, probably China. And we also have another set of images here. And in this one, you see them with their family dog, Max, as well. Ajay enjoying his ice cream. I have to say, Ajay was the original Bollywood aficionado in our family. When he used to visit India, he used to be he knew all the dialogues of Sholay by heart, more than any of us. So he was the original as far as we are concerned. And above there, you see young kids from the family. And we have here Ajay in Delhi when he was, getting ready for his wedding. And we have three gorgeous ladies in the family, Shivani and Deepu and Vibha together, all dressed up for a wedding. So with that, we now move on to Veena Bahadur's family. And that's the Bahadur sister who stayed back in India. Our family is where East meets West, as part of our family is overseas and the other half is here. And we'll shortly see what our family looks like. We're now on to Veena Bahadur's family. Yes. And we're going to now just show you our family tree, which is basically, as we were talking earlier, Pavan and Deepu, Vandana Harish, Riya Jaya Pavan, Deepu's kids, beautiful children, and Tara and Tisha ours. Thanks to Papa being in the railways. Okay, so let me just quickly give you a quick intro on these beautiful pictures. That's mom and dad getting married with Deepak Mama, in the middle. And on the right is a picture that we all really adore, both of them young married couple out on their honeymoon. And this is 50 years later on their golden anniversary with Brijveer Nana blessing them both. We made a little news magazine cover for them at that time. But this is the whole family gathering for their 50th. Now, thanks to Papa being in the railways, our family has also moved around quite a bit. Amongst the many moves, we have fond memories of an idyllic 5 to 6 golden years spent in a little town in Chittaranjan in Bengal. It was like an enlightened childhood for Pavan and me. Our move to Lucknow in 1977 was our first experience in a big city. Lovely memories of exploring food places, movies, shopping in Hazratganj, and school years at La Martiniere for me and St. Francis for Pavan. We also got to spend precious time with Dr. Nana's family, got to know them really well there. Our next stop in 1981 was the city of Patiala, the land of tandoori chicken and much more. It was a huge change, not just because of the culture, but because it was our first experience of living outside the familiar cocoon of a railway colony. Despite all the relocations, there were some continuing themes in our family: holidays in the hills and in Vasant Vihar, lovely gardens in each house, exploring food joints in the most unlikely places, and weddings that tended not to go as per plan. Mom, dad's, Pavan's, and mine all had some unexpected events as part of the proceedings. We'll try and share more on that later. But first, let's introduce you to Veena. And this is another picture of our family on a holiday in Thailand, mom and dad on their travels. So we would now like to take you to Veena Bahadur's journey. You heard from mom about their childhood years. Today, after all those years, how would one introduce Veena Bhatnagar? An active 80-year-old Nani who can give a 50-year-old stiff competition in activity levels. An economist by training who did her MA from Delhi School of Economics, followed by a PhD, which she completed while moving between two cities. Mom was born to be an educator. Her birthday is 5th September. She has taught for over 30 years, first in school from KG to 12th, and then at college level for 20 years. She retired as a reader from Delhi University after a feisty innings, not just as a lecturer, but leading a movement against a corrupt college administrator and also introducing a new course on business economics. Post-retirement, mom has been active in social work in the VV Resident Society, taking up water-related issues, volunteering for NGOs. At home, mom is a brilliant cook who doggedly refuses to follow any recipe and takes immense pride in her jugaad methods, which is hugely exasperating for me as her methods are very difficult to replicate. Halim, as Ranu Mama mentioned, mutton curry, biryani are her star dishes, even though she's a vegetarian herself. Mom enjoys painting and gardening, and most of all, she enjoys discussing politics, just needs someone to spar with on any current issue. Small aside, she enjoys movies of all kinds, and Paul Newman is her all-time favorite. Mom has been the anchor for our family, playing multiple roles as they came along. As the wife of a railway officer, she was actively involved in the social and community activities that went with her role, especially in Patiala when Papa was setting up the new railway facility. She helped create a whole new railway community for the families that were there. After Operation Blue Star and the Delhi Sikh riots, she led initiatives to reach out to families that were impacted. Back in Delhi, Mom willingly carried the load of looking after many Sikh family members, both sets of parents and Papa during his later years. So much so that she's become a quasi-medico of sorts. For Pavan and me, Mom has been a constant protective presence, ever ready to buffer us from shocks, smoothen out rough patches, constantly on the lookout if something seems to be going awry in our lives and telling us to course correct. Veena Bhatnagar also has the strangest and most adorable contradictions, absent-minded to the extreme, as Meera Mausi and others will endorse, but remembering to nag us for some overdue medical test that we have forgotten about. She's also stubborn as hell in holding on to her principles, but the first to compromise if it helps repair family relationships, immensely careless about her appearance and yet always managing to look elegant. Underlying all her many talents and qualities, the thing that underpins Mom's existence is her Buddhist practice. It's the source of her strength and wisdom. What matters most to her is making a difference to someone else's life. And in that sense, she's truly a bodhisattva in her family. Vijay was Veena's ally in all her endeavors, and we'll hear from Pavan about him.
Okay, so this is about Papa Vijay Bhatnagar. You know, the one thing that probably defined Papa was his infectious smile. It conveyed his zest for life, a childlike naughtiness, and his ability to connect with people. He grew up exposed to diverse environments, which probably seeded in him an innate curiosity for life and a desire to savor different places and cultures. Born in Faisalabad, Pakistan, he schooled in Shimla and then did his engineering from Jamalpur. The railways was the perfect fit for his exploring spirit. He was passionate about the railways and took immense pride in being a railwayman. Papa actively engaged in all aspects of the Indian railways, from extensive travels across railway divisions of Western Railways to his role as chief engineer in setting up the diesel component works in Patiala, to stints in the Territorial Army during 1965 and 71 wars, and postings in the Railway Board and RITES. His rich experience led him to being engaged by the World Bank for various projects, including in China, Indonesia, Mongolia, and Kazakhstan. When he accepted the assignment of setting up the diesel component works in Patiala, the Khalistan movement was still at a nascent stage. It blew up into a full-fledged insurgency during his stint there. This meant that he not only had to deal with the complexity of setting up a huge greenfield project, but also faced pressures and violent threats on a regular basis. Despite all this, he kept his team motivated and he completed the project on time, which is a rarity in those days. Later on, Papa further diversified his experience by partnering with Brijveer Nanaji and Ranu Mama to grow Fairwood Consultants. On a more personal level, Papa had a wide and eclectic range of interests. Apart from his passion for travel, he loved photography, collecting encyclopedias and being one, golf, and dabbling with gardening. In fact, he had made me his mali for about 1 year in Lucknow, where I was asked to basically chano all the rubble out of his garden soil behind the house. He also actively practiced homeopathy. Being an extreme foodie, he would take all of us to the most obscure restaurants in the cities we happened to visit or live in. Even later, when physically constrained by Parkinson's, he would occasionally take off with the driver and attendant for a round of chola bhatura in Karol Bagh. Papa's ability to stay upbeat and optimize life in the face of most challenging situations inspires us even now. He wanted to not just experience the vibrant colors of life himself, but also share it with those around him. He would encourage us to travel, talk about exotic lands and histories. he curated a vast collection of slides from his travels across the world. The technicolor life that Papa led remains with us and even with his grandchildren.
Thanks, Pavan. So now we come to the journeys of Gen 3, which is Pavan and me and our respective spouses. I would say probably our better halves. So we'll start with Pavan and Deepu. And I'll ask Harish to share some of our perspectives about Pavan and Deepu. So Harish, over to you.
There you go.
Hi, my name is Harish Doraiswamy, and I'm delighted to be able to speak on Pavan and Deepu, two of my favorite people. Pavanshil Bhatnagar, though he may not look it, was born very wise. His run of wise decisions started pretty early. For starters, he decided to be born on leap year day, February 29th, thereby protecting himself from the vagaries of age. But even earlier than that, he had displayed signs of uncommon wisdom by choosing his parents well. For an endlessly curious child, being born as Veena and Vijay Bhatnagar's son was an ideal start. From all accounts, Pavan was a loving brother, highly protective, except when it came to protecting Gogi against his own creative mischief. As per legend, Gogi was the guinea pig for many of his experiments. And all the while, she viewed him with wide-eyed fascination, because Pavan was an alchemist who could blend chemicals to create mini explosions, make aeroplane models that flew, and an electrical whiz who could cobble circuits together that actually delivered current, as confirmed by Gogi's thumb. Pavan was a born tinkerer, and it was quite a natural transition into becoming a successful computer engineer. After initial stints with Indian software companies and the World Bank in Washington, D.C., he headed west to Silicon Valley, where he worked with innovators like Netscape, Yahoo, and Google. He's currently pursuing his professional goals with a deep tech startup in the Bay Area. But tech and work are only 20% of the man. The other 80 is a cocktail of man-child, a true family man, a trusted friend, a Diwali crackers aficionado, an aviation enthusiast, a certified pilot, a guitarist, a drummer, a devourer of comic books, and a good cayast connoisseur of meat and drink. Pavan studied computer science at IIT Kanpur, easing his way in with a national rank of 8th in the JEE entrance examination. After working for a few years, he ended up at IIM Calcutta, where he was Gogi's senior and mine by a year. I'm unable to find the right words for Pavan's reputation as a senior. All I know is that sedate wasn't it. During his time at IIM Calcutta, not what a lot of Pavan said or did revealed any wisdom at all. But when all his batchmates were busy with internships at the end of their first year, Pavan revealed that he had not lost any of his wise touch by using the time to get married to Deepu. And that kicked off the flowering of the next generation of the clan. Deepu, who's aka Vaswati, is from Guwahati and hails from an amazingly affectionate and fun-loving Assamese family, something to give serious competition to the Das family. She pursued her graduation in psychology at Delhi University, which is when Pavan pursued her. Little did Pavan realize then that Deepu's psychology degree would help her read him like a book, all his Silicon Valley computer bits and bytes notwithstanding. Deepu is the right brain to Pavan's left. Her artistic skills, strong aesthetic sense, and talent in design have found an outlet in a young business venture that she has co-founded called the White Mulberry. She's also had an enduring love affair with textiles, traditional fabrics, and prints. I'm reliably informed that she is a superb singer, but a reticent one, not unlike many of the ladies in the Das family. Deepu is also an avid gardener with a green thumb. What she does with the plants in her garden is no different from what she does with those of us who are in her orbit. She makes us all better. Deepu and Pavan are parents of two adorable kids. Ria, the older one, graduated from Skidmore College and is currently working with a digital marketing company in San Francisco, while Jay is an architecture student at Carnegie Mellon University. Jay is also a Taekwondo black belt and fitness enthusiast. Both have inherited their parents' intelligence, sensitivity, wit, and musical talent. They both have a special place in our hearts, and despite the distance, remain closely connected with their family back home in India.
Thanks, Harish. And these are some beautiful images of the family, as you can see, Ria and Jay with Pavan and Deepu. Okay, we have now Deepu sharing the story of Vandana, that is me and Harish. So Deepu, over to you.
Okay, Deepu, you got to unmute if you're hearing us.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. Most of you in the larger family know Gogi and Harish is a charming cosmopolitan couple, loving and genuine in their care, not just for their loved ones, but for those around them. They are well-read, well-traveled, and utterly fun to be with. I am not going to be talking about their professional accomplishments. Those are easily available in their LinkedIn profiles. They've definitely done some seriously interesting things in their professions and have refreshed and reinvented themselves to pursue their passions and their interests. Their story starts in 1989 in IIM Kolkata as batchmates. Gogi had just completed her BA in economics from St. Stephen's, New Delhi, and Harish an engineering degree from IIT Madras. Their love story didn't really blossom until 1993, after they'd graduated and were working. An intriguing story of a girl from the north meets a boy from the south who had lived in the east. The two romanced long distance for a while. Both Harish and Gogi spent a chunk of their growing up years in West Bengal, and by the way, the man speaks fluent Bengali. A Tam Bram and a UP Kais navigated the minefields of family expectations with much elan and a whole lot of patience that tied the knot in 1996. Their twins, Tara and Tisha, utterly gorgeous in every way, were born in 2001 and have kept them on their toes these last 20 years. Tara and Tisha are currently in Ashoka University doing their undergrad studies. Tara in psychology and Tish in economics. It's been entertaining to see Gogi and Harish grow as people and as parents, their innate empathy and humor having won many a day with TNT and the rest of us. By the way, Harish's posse of kids in the family are his love-struck, enduring fans. He's a really fun and indulgent uncle. Everyone knows Gogi as a woman of grace and grit, but those lucky enough to know her closely are aware of this pocket-sized dynamite who's fiercely loyal, fearless in her well-distilled worldview, and utterly open-minded. She's truly game for any adventure. Stories of her tent pegging in her senior years at school, this petite teenager atop a massive 15-hand high horse with her swinging lance is legendary amongst our friends and family. She must have been a superb equestrian. She met her match in Harish. He's a man of utter integrity, fearless in standing up for the truth and what is right, and genuinely caring. Harish is an incredible wit, keen photographer, and sports fanatic, are very well informed about current events from politics to policy, and loves music. His prized possession is his superb classic rock, jazz, and blues record collection. Together, this couple is endlessly curious, loves good food, good books, good friends, good conversations, and destinations in far-off locales. By the way, both of them are history buffs. We've spent many a family vacation together, and when Gogi plans, everyone gets out of her way because we know we'll invariably have an incredible time. Some of my family's most fun, soul-satisfying times have been with these two beautiful people and their daughters, where conversations swing from serious to the utterly ridiculous. Gogi and Harish don't take themselves too seriously, and their wicked sense of humor and ability to laugh at themselves and find humor in tough situations have given their partnership strength and resilience, and as individuals, their ease and grace. Their children and their canine daughter, Laika, are their pride and joy, and no matter where they are or what their commitment, for Gogi and Harish, family always comes first. Everything else follows from there on. Thank you.
Thanks, Deepu. Thank you very much. We are very pleased to hear these comments. Well, anyway, I mean, these are some more pictures. As you can see, Harish with his most favorite pastime, listening to live music, and other glorious pictures. At the bottom right, we have Tara and Tisha with Tanvi and Sid. And above that is Nanima with Ria, her great-granddaughter. So we now are going to move on to Lekha Mausi's family. And while Harish gets that going, really, this is the first family from our clan to have settled in the East Coast, and which is probably the first family from the Das family to settle there. And it's now, as we all know, become the second hub for the RSD Parivar. So it's been another interesting story of migration. So early settlers on East Coast, and we have the family tree here, Anju and Seema. Sadly, we lost Anju about 5-6 years back after she put up an incredibly brave fight. In her short but immensely inspiring life, she left an indelible mark on all our lives. Sonia is Seema's daughter, Krishna is Seema's better half, and with that, we will go into this family story. We see here this beautiful picture of Lekha Mausi and Rajan Mausi getting married, with Meera Mausi looking on, and below is with Deepa Mausi also in the picture. And on the top is the picture with the two proud parents and their two lovely girls. I'm going to now ask Lekha Mausi to share her journey. But before that, a quick introduction. Lekha and Rajan migrated to America in the early 70s. They lived in New Jersey for a long time and have recently moved to New York near their daughter and Seema. Rajan had a long and successful career at AT&T, from where he finally retired as director of new product business plans. Lekha is an economics graduate from Miranda House, and after moving to the US, has been an avid follower and observer of national politics. She had joined in an earlier FDG session on the US elections as well. Her analyses of political events and predictions are now a subject of many heated discussions at family and friend gatherings. Well, coming back to Rajan, after retiring, he became active in local politics, has served as district representative for Democrats on the Mayor's Council for Economic Development. And he was also an outreach coordinator to various associations and business clubs in town. Lekha also worked with the town's immigrant population to help them apply for citizenship and register as new voters. She's hosted numerous neighborhood improvement sessions, and recommendations from these sessions have been presented to the Mayor's Action Committee. And their daughter Seema is working as a financial analyst. Her husband, Krishna, is a management consultant. So I'll now hand over to Lekha Mausi to share her story. Lekha Mausi, over to you.
Thank you, Gogi. I have been away from India for more than 50 years and would like to take this opportunity to talk about my life's journey, as Veena and Gogi mentioned, once again, across cultures and seas. Born in 1948 in Kulwar, I spent the first 7 years of my life in Hyderabad, which at that time was under the rule of Nizam, with heavy Islamic influence. Of those years, I have only flashes of memory. Papa was transferred to Delhi when I was 7. The culture of Delhi was more liberal and outgoing. It turned me from a quiet, shy girl into a tomboy. Wellesley Road flats in New Delhi provided the ideal environment for kids to congregate and play. Meera Jiji, I so fondly remember your 6-month stay with us at Wellesley Road. There are sweet memories of playing Kho, Pittu, and Kabaddi with you, Neetu, Veena, Deepak, and the friends in the quadrangle in front of our apartment. Walks around Purana Qila, sometimes attempting to climb the ruins of the fort, visits to Sundarnagar Sweets Corner to eat chole bhature, and to India Gate to buy carry-home ice cream and quality ice cream were always such a big treat. Veena and I had a great time practicing the dance on Aplam Chaplam at Deepaji's wedding. Little did I realize that all these simple activities would one day become a love story and lead to a matrimonial alliance between Deepak and Neetu at a later date. We are three sisters, Indu Jiji, Veena, and I. Veena and I are 7 years apart, Indu Jiji and I 11 years apart. Gigi got married when I was 8 years old. After marriage, she moved to America, and I saw very little of her. Travel between the two countries were very expensive and very difficult. Telephone calls had to be scheduled 3 days in advance, and most of the time was taken up shouting, "Bete, how are you?" to each other. Lines were often never clear. 3 minutes were allotted in total to talk, and my turn to talk hardly ever came. Mummy, Papa were, of course, always there for me. But I found myself turning to Veena for advice and guidance. Papa was very busy with his government career, and Mummy was a simple, quiet, spiritual person. In fact, Veena played the role of a sister and a friend to me. One thing about Mummy stands out very vividly in my mind. She would start each day with a puja every morning. I remember her meditating before God with folded hands. There was no particular God she would pray to. She followed no rituals and read no scriptures. At the time, I thought nothing of this morning routine. But when I moved to America, it played a significant role in my life. At 21, I got married to Rajan and moved to America. Only then my association with Gigi and her children, Sanjay, Shobi, and Ajay grew. It was a slow process since Gigi was in Arizona and I was in New Jersey. Once again, some 3,000 miles separating us. But slowly and steadily and surely, our sisterly bonds grew and became very, very strong. Sanjay, Shobi, and Ajay entered my life. Initially, the move to a foreign land was very unsettling and very challenging to me. There was no community of our own around us. The need for acceptability was so strong that my daughter Anju officially changed her name from Anjali to Angela. I, along with Anju, who was at that time 10 years old, started visiting a nearby church to meditate. Later on, Anju even wore a cross around her neck. It's all right, I thought. After all, some religious grounding is better than none. Some religious underpinning is better than no grounding. I am eternally thankful to Mummy for giving me this broad, expansive view of religion. It helped me lead my life free of confusions. Anju was a vivacious, family-oriented girl. Just the other day, Sanjay reminded me that one time Anju and Ajay visited him in Dallas. One day, returning from work, he found the two of them sitting on a sofa. There was no communication between them. They were just staring into space, but they were very, very happy to be in each other's company. Over time, the Indian community and the Indian institutions grew in New Jersey. A number of temples and religious organizations flourished. I found myself visiting them. Years later, Veena, on one of her trips to America, introduced me to Buddhism. During Anju's long illness, Buddhism served as a great source of strength to me. Also, a Swaminarayan temple had opened in town. Their members heard about Anju's illness and reached out to us. I find myself not attached to any religion, but each religion gives me comfort and peace in its own unique way. They have been a remarkable source of strength to me. My other daughter, Seema, was of course equally affected by Anju's long illness, but has bravely marched on to make her life. The bright spot for us was her wedding in 2012. It was the spirit and celebration and joy rendered by the entire family that made it a memorable occasion. Thank you, family, for being a part of our life. Seema lives in New York City with her husband and 7-year-old daughter, Sonia. Seema and Sonia are two bright lights in my life. We spend a lot of time together since they are just a stone's throw away across the river. Seema and Sonia have put together a short video clip to introduce themselves. I would like you to meet them. Gogi, the video.
Thank you, Lekha Masi. And we're going to just share Seema's video.
Hi, I'm Seema, Rajan and Lekha's daughter. My older sister was Anjali. She was born in India and I was born in New Jersey. We have been living in New Jersey since about 1971, a very long time. Anju was the fun, outgoing, easygoing sister. I was always a quieter, more serious, introverted sister. I'm now living in New York City. About 10 years ago, I met my husband, Krishna, through some friends. We had a big wedding, which a few of you were able to attend. And then a following year, we had our daughter, Sonia, who's now 7 years old. So we're in New York City with Sonia. Mom and dad are living across the street. Mom and dad worked really hard to raise us. It was tough to raise us in the United States when there were almost no Indians there and we didn't have too much family. But Anju and I used to go in the summers when we were little to see everybody. We used to see Veena Masi and Pavan when he was a kid and Gogi when she was a kid. And sometimes we would see Sanjay and Ajay in Arizona or in India. I still keep in touch with everybody. I go to California whenever I can to see Pavan, Ajay, Sanjay, and I've seen Shobi a little bit. And I hope to make a trip soon to come to India to see everybody. I haven't been there since I was a little child, but I frequently meet everybody here in New York, and I'm looking forward to returning sometime soon and seeing everybody. So that's a little bit about our journey.
As I look back.
So we will be definitely showing Sonia too as part of our introduction of Gen 4. Please just hang on a little longer and we'll be giving you a quick glimpse on all of these youngsters. But before that, a few more images which were wonderful for our family. Sanjay Bhaiya's visit in 2012. As you can see, we had a nice family gathering here with all our cousins. At the bottom right, you see all the ILs, the in-laws, grinning widely, and that's because they were asked the question, are you happy to be part of the Das family? And all of them grinned very happily. So I think that's a big yay for the RSV clan. And we have here an image of the youngsters on the West Coast who had gathered for Kabir's wedding. Beautiful picture of all of them. And this is Richa and Sahaj and Riya Jay at the CMU campus earlier this year. And a few more lovely pics of our family together on various occasions. Pavan and Sanjay are looking like little Energizer bunnies, as I was telling him much earlier back in time.
It's those golden glasses.
Yeah, so that's a few glimpses. And now we're going to give you a quick montage of our Gen 4. So a little more time, few minutes, and that'll give you a glimpse of this family's next gen.
Hi, my name is Sonia. I like a lot of things, animals, almost every type of animals, rainbows, unicorns, sparkles, diamonds. My parents are Mommy and Daddy, Seema and Krishna, and I'm really looking forward to see my family.
Hi, I'm Tisha. I'm Vandana and Harish's daughter, and I'm 20 years old. I'm currently pursuing an economics major and environmental studies minor from Ashoka University. I'm not entirely sure of what I want to do in the future, but it's probably going to be something related to either environmental or wildlife conservation. I love to crochet. This is what I have finished today. I'm very proud of it. I also love film and photography, which I think I got a lot from my Nanu, which I think I got from my parents. But yes, thank you.
Hi, I'm Tara and I'm Vandana Gogi and Harish's daughter. I'm currently studying at Ashoka in my second year and I'm studying psychology and biology. I really like playing sports. I'm having a big phase with basketball right now and I enjoy art and design and stuff like that. Since the session is about Nanima's family, I thought I would just mention a small memory that I have with her, which is of Tisha and me playing at like below the settee that she used to lie down in our house. And it's a small memory, but I really value it because it's one of the few things I have to hold on to her with.
Hi, I'm Jay Bhatnagar. I'm Pavan and Deepu's son. I'm 20 years old and I study architecture at Carnegie Mellon, which is in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I grew up on the West Coast, but I go to school in the East, so I'm still getting used to it. But when I'm not working in the studio, which is most days these days, I'm finding new music, I'm riding my motorcycle, I powerlift at the gym, and sleep in. And even though I haven't met a lot of you, please say hi. If you're ever in the area, connect. And for those who I have met, how's it going? And yeah, have fun, guys.
Hi, my name is Ria. I'm going to be speaking for myself and my brother Jay. We are Pavan and Deepu's children. My brother Jay, he's 20. He was born in California. He's currently an architecture student at Carnegie Mellon University in Pittsburgh. When he's not in the architecture studio, he likes to ride his motorcycle, hang out with his friends. He goes to the gym a lot, and he just likes to explore Pittsburgh. It's his first time living on the East Coast outside of California. My name's Ria. I live in San Francisco. I've been working in tech for the last few years after graduating college in 2016. I also like to pretty much wander around San Francisco, find new places, hang out with friends, try new food. I'm usually working a lot, but other than that, I just try to be outside and get some fresh air and views. So yeah, I know that most of you, it's been a long time since we've met. Some of you we've never met, so I'm glad we could do this virtual meeting. And hopefully I get to see some of you soon.
Hi, my name is Akash and I'm the son of Shivani and Ajay Nigam. I'm talking about my brother Samir. Samir is 13 years old and he is 4 years younger than me. Samir is currently in middle school, but he's on his way to high school. He enjoys playing video games, basketball, and tennis with his friends. He also enjoys watching movies and eating popcorn with our family. On the weekends, me and Samir sometimes play video games, we try new foods, and we like to play with our dog, Max. He is one of the youngest cousins in our family, but he is growing really quick.
Hi, my name is Samir, and I am talking about my older brother, Akash. He is 17 years old and a senior in high school, currently applying for college. Akash is very interested in cars and also modifying cars. He developed this interest with his group of friends. He likes to play basketball with me on the weekends and play with our dog. We will really miss him once he goes to college.
Hi there, I'm Richa Date.
And I'm Sahaj Madhav, Richa's husband.
And I'm the daughter of Shobna and Chetan Date and the granddaughter of Indira and Bishan Nigam.
Hi, I'm Rishabh Date. I'm Shobhi Date's son.
I'm Reshma, I'm Rishabh's wife.
And we live in New Jersey.
Hi, everyone. My name's Anisha Nigam, daughter of Sanjay Nigam and sister of Kabir Nigam and Annika Holmberg. All of us have had a really hard year, meaning everyone in this world because of COVID and the pandemic. It separated a lot of people and a lot of lives, but it also connected a lot of people and a lot of lives as well. And I did lose my mother. My dad lost his wife. My brother lost his mother as well. It's hard to come to terms with reality because she was so vibrant and so young and lovely and wise. And you don't know how this could happen to a person, but life throws things in your way. So unpredictable. You know, my background is in research or data analytics. But I do eventually hope to make my own business or app and think for the greater good of everyone. So it's really important we're doing this family tree.
Hello, everyone. I am Kabir Nigam. I am the brother of Anisha Nigam and the son of Sanjay and Rita Nagar. Currently in Boston, doing one of my first winters in a while, hence why I'm all bundled up right now. We were actually born here in Boston, and then we moved to San Diego when we were pretty young, and grew up there. I went and studied at UCLA, studied neuroscience, and then went on to do a master's in neuroscience, did some work in London before that. And now I'm here, went to medical school at Virginia Commonwealth University, and then now here at Fairfield, doing my psychiatry residency. Throughout my life, I've been really interested in the brain, but also in music and structuring the brain. And in my dad's letter, he writes that I could have been a rock star. However, he never encouraged that. It doesn't seem like he did. So had they encouraged a career in music, things may have turned out differently, but they didn't. And I'm pretty happy with how they turned out. I have a wife whose name is Annika Holmberg. We've been dating, we were married for a year before. We've been together for 8 years. We met in college. And we currently live together in Boston. And I'm looking forward to seeing the end result of this project and hearing from all the extended families who I haven't heard from in a very long time. Take care.
Okay, so that was our Gen 4. And that brings us to the end of this presentation. And we'd like to just say that our journey is going to be continuing. And we have a little video of some happy times, which is, okay. Hope that works.
So this is Reshma, Rishabh's wife. That's Shobhi Didi. And that's Sanjay and Vibha.
Here's Bunty, Indu Mercy and Deepu. Okay, so that's the end of our session on the Vimla Bahadur family. We took a little longer, but we hope you enjoyed that. So I'm just now going to just open up the chat because we've been kind of on the screen share. Okay, great. I'm
Very
wondering
good.
Fantastic. It was really, really very nice.
Very
So
good. We
good to
enjoyed
get
it.
to know all of you, really.
So I have to say, kudos to this lady over here,
Well,
who was the singleton sitting in India. And she said that, okay, are we going to do this? I said yes, and I did not know what I was signing up for in the United States.
and I have to say that Lekha Mausi was the stalwart who mobilized the Western Front, and Mom was incredible in curating all the old stories from back in time. And then, of course, Shobhi Jiji, Sanjay Bhaiya, despite incredibly busy schedules, pulling out photos, and also Ajay and Seema to share with us. So big thanks to everybody, I think.
Okay, so I'm going to use a little bit of time because I know a lot about a few members of the family. By the way, Gogi and Pavan, this has been a spectacular effort. It must have taken a lot of work. I mean, 35 people being showcased. This has been amazing, absolutely. And you actually set the bar quite high for all the future ones who are going to come. So just a few quick comments. And again, Pupaji's life in Hyderabad during the Nizam's time and the takeover by India, that would have been a very interesting story. And it would be wonderful if Veena Jiji maybe could put down a little bit of stuff about the history of that time. And that would be wonderful. Before you go on, Veena, Jiji, I have a couple more things to say. I remember Lekha Jiji in skirts, by the way, Lekha Jiji, when you were in Wellesley Road. You're just a few years older than me, and you were in school, and I remember you in skirts. I met Indu Jiji a couple of times in Phoenix. I have been to Phoenix 2-3 times, and I met the kids also, Shobhi and maybe Ajay. I don't remember meeting Sanjay then, but it was wonderful meeting her. And I do remember your home in Phoenix. But I also want to speak a little bit about Vijay Bhaisa, Veena Jiji's husband, who I spent a lot of wonderful times. And it was mentioned by somebody that he was a foodie. That I can certify. That I can certify. He was an experimenter in food, and we used to do this together all the time. But one wonderful quirk was that he would always say, I'll have only half. And then after the half was finished, then he'd say, okay, I'll have the half of the half. And go on. The whole thing was eaten by him. He was a wonderful, delightful person. And I spent 3 years with him almost every day, traveling all over the place. That's what I wanted to say. So this has been a great effort. And Veena Jiji, you were about to say something. Sorry.
No. I said there's actually, I don't know what you meant by saying more on this, but quite a lot has been told already. But the point that I would really like to make is that in the environment in which we lived at that time, and when just now we've returned from Hyderabad after the three-day trip there, the friendship that I formed at that time at the age of 13, which Gogi mentioned a bit, I renewed that friendship with the families, both of us getting together. I can't just express the warmth that we felt. And we got together like one family in 1 hour. So, it seems so irrelevant to talk of cultural differences, religious differences, and so on, because when friendships are at that level, then nothing really matters. And at that time, though, we lived in that culture, I don't think we felt that suffocation at all. So, but those were really striking times, even as a child, I remember. You can imagine with curtains in the car as we go along, and Mummy never saw even the streets, as Collector Papa was posted in Bidar, not in, now in where, I don't know which state. So she had never seen a street there, because always she had curtains in the car. And we used to go to picture halls, and the men would sit in one side and the other. There would be a curtain in between. So those were the times, you know. So compared to that, Ajkal ka culture, I mean, is hardly suffocating if you talk about it, you know, that sort of a thing. But at that time, we sort of never thought about it, really. Never thought about it. It became part of our life. And yeah, there's so much to talk, but really, this is not the time.
This was very, very engaging. And I have to say that
WhatsApp audio.
Yeah, the attrition rate at this time in this session was very, very small. And everybody stayed on. We had a lot of windows, but many more people because there are 2 people in a lot of windows. So I guess we had about 35 to 40 people in the session, which is wonderful. The next session is going to be in early January. This will be about, this will be conducted by Vaishali, and it'll be about the Sarlabaji family. So that's about a month from now. And I'm really looking forward to that. That's it. So thank you for being here, and all the best to everybody.